Hello students, welcome once again. And this lecture of mine is in continuation with the previous lectures delivered on Ode to the West Wind by P.V. Shelley. We have read first three cantos of the poem Ode to the West Wind. As we know that it is a poem written by the English romantic poet Percy Bysshe Shelley, and this poem was written in the woods outside Florence in Italy in the autumn of 1819. It was first published in 1820, and in this poem the speaker directly addresses the west wind and treats it as a force of death and decay. But he welcomes this death and decay because it is because of that rejuvenation and rebirth will come soon. So today we'll be doing the final two sections of the poem. The speaker suggests, in these sections, the speaker suggests that he wants to help promote this rebirth through his own poetry. That rejuvenation he hopes to see is both political and poetic. It is a rebirth of society and in its ways of writing. Now, these two last cantos, they are expressive of the personal anguish to be followed by hopes of a happier future. So now we will read the fourth canto. If I were a dead cloud, thou mightest bear. If I were a swift cloud to fly with thee, a wave to pant beneath thy power and share the impulse of thy strength, only less free than thou, O uncontrollable. If even I were as in my boyhood, and could be the comrade of thy wanderings over the heaven, as then when to outstrip thy sky's speed scarce seemed a vision, I would never have striven as thus with thee in prayer in my sore need. Oh, lift me as a wave, a leaf, a cloud. I fall upon the thorns of life, I bleed. A heavy weight of hours has chained and bowed one too like thee, tameless, swift and proud. Now in this canto, he is actually describing his own anguish, and he is saying, he is asking or pleading the wind to act upon him, and he says, just because he is feeling so depressed, he is cowed down by the worries of the life, he wants the help of the west wind to raise him. He says, if I were a dead leaf, thou mightest bear. So he is comparing himself to a dead leaf. He says that if I were, because he has shown us the impact or the effect of the west wind on the leaves, clouds, and waves. So he says that if I were a dead leaf, thou mightest bear, that you could bear with me. If I were a swift cloud to fly with thee, he says, if I were a swift cloud and I could fly with you, a wave to pant beneath thy power, or if I were a wave, I could have panted. So that is, breath heavily under the power of the west wind, and share the impulse of thy strength, that he could have shared the impulse or the force of the west wind, the strength of the west wind. Only less free than thou, O uncontrollable. He says, now I am less free than thou. That wind is free. Nobody can control it. It is free. It has a free will and it is uncontrollable, as it is. He is describing it. Oh, uncontrollable. Uncontrollable means nobody can tame it. Nobody can control it. Nobody can order it that to how you have to behave and what you have to do. But this wind is uncontrollable. If even I were in my boyhood and could be the comrade of thy wanderings over heaven. He says, if I were young, if I were a young boy, and I could be your companion, comrade of their wanderings over the heaven over here. He says that when I was a young boy, I was almost like you. I was so energetic, so forceful and powerful that I could have easily accompanied you. I would have become a companion of yours. And why? Because if I were in my childhood, then to outstrip thy sky's speed scarce seemed a vision, that I could have easily outstripped you. Outstripped you means to overcome you, to win, जीत लेना. मैं तुमसे, अगर मैं तुम्हारे साथ दौड़ रहा होता तुम्हारे साथ साथ, तो हो सकता है कि मैं तुमसे आगे निकल जाता. When he was a boy. And actually, if we know his biography, that we really come to know that he was really uncontrollable, he was very impetuous, he was very wild, and he actually did what he wanted to do. Nobody could control him. He was, as I have told you in the introduction, that he was also expelled from the university because of writing some atheist article. And when the forces asked him to recant his views, he refused, so he was expelled from the university. He said that he was also uncontrollable. Nobody could tame him or control him. So he says, if I were in my boyhood, if I were a young boy, then I would have easily competed with you. I would have easily competed with your power. At that time, it scarce seemed a vision. That is, it did not seem like imagination. He could have easily competed with the west wind. I would never have striven as thus with thee in prayer in my sore need. He said, if I were like that, if I were in my youth, then I would not have pleaded you. I would never have striven as thus with thee in prayer. Okay? I would never have prayed to you. I would have not been a supplicant praying for your help. In my sore need, that is, now I really need you because I'm totally laid down with life's worries, and he compares himself to be a diminished person. He's not that energetic and forceful, and so he wants that force and energy back within himself. So what is he trying to do? He is trying to plead with the west wind to help him out. So in these lines, we see the juxtaposition of the wind's power against the poetic voice's frailty, that the speaker or the persona or the poet, he is feeling very frail or weak in comparison with the west wind. So it is juxtaposed. Then he says there is also comparison made to a man in prayer in my sore need. He says that as thus with thee, I would never have striven as thus with thee in prayer in my sore need, that I am in need of your help. So now he prays, oh, lift me as a wave, a leaf, a cloud. I fall upon the thorns of life, I bleed. Now, these are very strong words. I fall upon the thorns of life, I bleed. So he feels that I have diminished myself and I have become so frail and weak person, and he feels so chained and bowed down, and he hopes that the west wind will revive him. So the speaker is asking for the help of the west wind. He says, "Oh, lift me as a wave, a leaf, a cloud. I fall upon the thorns of life, I bleed." So, why is he asking the west wind to help him? Because he feels that because he has seen the impact of the west wind on the leaves, waves, and a cloud. So, he feels that this is the reflection of the power of the west wind. And when we ourselves feel weak, we need the help of some powerful person or some strong person to bring us out of that situation in which we are fixed. So he says that a heavy weight of hours has chained and bowed one too like thee, tameless and swift and proud. So he says that the heavy weight of hours, that ये नहीं है कि घंटों का बोझ इसके ऊपर है. The heavy weight of hours are the problems and the troubles in the life which he is facing. Actually, he has had a very tumultuous life himself. He was expelled from the university, then he was estranged from his father. He had eloped first with Harriet and then later with Mary Shelley. And he has had a very, you can say, ups and downs in his life. And that is why he feels that when he was a young boy, in his youth, he was very powerful and uncontrollable. He says, I was one too like thee. That is, one too like thee, but I was also like you. Like thee means you. I was also like you. How you? He is describing that tameless, the one who cannot be controlled, who cannot be tamed. And swift and proud, that he held his pride very high, and he did not bow down in front of anyone, in front of any authority, in front of his father or his father-in-law or with the university authorities from where he was expelled. He says that I was like you. I was as swift and as tameless and as proud as you. But now actually I've been chained by the worries of the life and I have grown weak. I do not have that much of energy left with me. So he says that I fall upon the thorns of life, I bleed. This is fall upon the thorns of life. What do you mean by thorns of life? Does life has any thorns? Do we really fall upon the thorns? क्या हम कांटों के ऊपर गिर जाते हैं और हमारे खून बहने लग जाते हैं? What is it? Like if you compare life to a rose bush. So in that rose bush, there are roses, that is flowers. They are soft and sweet and they give good smell, fragrance, and beauty is all there. But it also has thorns. That is, life is a combination of happiness and sorrows, of difficulties and achievements. So he's saying that it seems that he has more of failures in his life, and that is why he feels that he is fallen upon the thorns of life and he's bleeding. That is, he is really feeling so anguished by his own personal problems and also about the problems looking at the world, because he was a great supporter of French Revolution and of democracy and democratic views. But during his lifetime, democracy wasn't happening in England, and he wanted democracy to progress in his country. So that is why he feels that a heavy weight of hours has chained and bowed one too like thee, that I was also like you, but I have been chained, I have been controlled, I have been constricted from the movement. Actually, when he wrote this poem, he was in Italy and he was not in England. So and he could not return to England because he died before. He died in a boat accident shortly after writing this poem. And so he says that I was also like you, and he is burdened by the heavy weight of chains. Chains are the difficulties of life. So he says that there is a ferocious struggle and unease in the poetic verse is acknowledged over here, that there is a struggle going on in his life. And actually, Shelley has also lost his 2 children, one year before he died and one in the same year, and he was really feeling very low at that time when he wrote this poem. So, in the next canto, we will study that what he really wishes the west wind to do.